All right, we're gonna start this project by making our fish. Now, we are going to need to go landscape style with our paper, which means nice and long, not tall skyscraper style, okay? So we're gonna start by making the tail, all right? And you can start on either side. I think I'm gonna start on this side. And we're gonna start by making a triangle. So the triangle's gonna go to the corners. Now we don't want a huge tail, so you're not gonna go way over here with your triangle. But I think I'm gonna have his tail be about that big. So it's kind of like we're making a little mountain right there, all right? And then for the body, we need to make a football shape. Now to do that, it's actually not as hard as you might think, okay? So we're gonna start at the tail, this point right here, and we're gonna curve down and then back up. And then we're gonna start here and curve up and then back down. So my football shape is it's got a little bit of a divot right there. So if I wanted to, I could go back in and erase that and fix that. If you want him to be a little bit skinnier, you would make it a little bit smaller. That is up to you. Okay, so now we've got the basic shape for our fish. We gotta start adding the details now. So we're gonna start with an eye, and because we're only looking at our fish from the side, we're only gonna see one eye. So we're gonna draw our eye, and I think I'm gonna have my fish looking forward like that. And then give him a nice old big smile. And if you want your fish to have like an open mouth, you would go like that, and then just make sure that you erase this part right here so that it looks like his mouth is open. Okay, now we're gonna do his side fin, his little fins on his side. So that's gonna be kind of a flattened out U, and then another flattened out U, and that one's gonna come right on up and touch like that. Okay, then we're gonna just kind of draw a V, and his fin is done. Now here comes the separation of the head and the body. So if your fin is close enough, you might have to go behind your fin like this, or if your fin is far enough back, you can just separate it with a curve like that. That's up to you how you want to do it. Everybody's fish is going to look a little bit different. And if you have space on the bottom, you might put a bottom fin, but we're going to put a top fin. I don't have a lot of space, so I'm just going to have to do like a little skinny fin, like a rectangle up there. Okay, and we're gonna add some lines for our detail and some lines on our tail. And now here comes the challenge, fish scales. A fish scale pattern is like a bunch of bumps or U's stacked on top of each other. But they don't just go right to the same spot. They kind of hit in the middle of each other. So if it's easier for you to draw bumps, you can turn your paper like this. If it's easier for you to draw U's, you can turn your paper like this. So I think I'm gonna go like this, and you just start by drawing some U's. Go big because we're gonna have to trace this, and I hit the fin, so I'm gonna stop. And I'm gonna start back up on the other side of the fin. And now for the next row, I don't start in the same spot. I start in the middle of one of my U's and go to the other middle, and we go back that way. I start in the middle of a U, go to the middle of the next one, middle of the next one, over, fill it back in, and then with my next one, I do the same thing, except that this time it's the middle of this U. So I'm just gonna keep starting in the middle of my U's so I can do the next bump. All right, and you know what? It looks like I would put one right there if the fin wasn't in the way, so I'm just gonna drop that one in. And now I can make it all the way across. So I'm gonna start in the middle, go to the next one, middle, next one, middle, next one, middle, next one, middle, all the way. Fill this space in. All right. Okay, start in the middle, go to the next one, middle, next one, middle, next one, middle, next one, middle. Fill that space in, and you just keep going until you run out of space. And so that is my fish. And what we're gonna do next is we are going to trace. So I'm gonna use a black marker. You can use a pen or a crayon, it's up to you, but I'm gonna speed run through it because you don't need to watch me trace, but the whole thing is gonna get traced. Now that our fish is done and he's traced, we can just put our fish off to the side. And you are gonna grab one of your other 2 pieces of paper. I think I'm gonna go with my green one first. And we are gonna make 2 pieces of coral for our fish because we want our fish to have a lovely coral reef once we're all done to swim around in. So we're gonna start with a short piece of coral. So we're gonna be landscape again. And what this one's gonna be kind of like a cloud that's stuck to the ground, okay? So with clouds, it's kind of just bumpy. So we're gonna start here, or it might look like a bush even, especially because I have it on green here. And it's just gonna kind of be a cloud that's stuck to the ground like this. All right, so that's how you make the short coral. The tall coral, we're gonna go skyscraper style, and we're actually gonna trace our hands. So we're gonna carefully trace our hands. Make sure that your pencil is straight up and down, because if you turn your pencil at an angle when you do it, like if I were to go like this, I would make my fingers really, really skinny, and the pieces of my coral would pop off. Now right now it looks like a hand. We need to turn it into coral, so we are gonna add a couple extra fingers. So I'm gonna add an extra finger here, I think. It depends on how you had your hand. You might have space for 5 extra fingers, or you might have only space for 2 extra fingers. But our goal is to kind of make it look less like a hand and more like coral. All right, so think Finding Nemo and stuff. Okay. Alrighty, and then I think I'm gonna put one more down here. So there we go. So I have my tall coral and my short coral. And now I am going to color and decorate these with a pattern. So it is your call what kind of pattern you want to do. But remember, patterns repeat over and over and over again. And I think I'm going to use markers. You can use crayons, colored pencils, markers. It's up to you. But I have my markers handy, so I'm going to use those. And so I'm going to start with my tall coral here. And I think I'm going to start, it's kind of hard to see on this red, so I'm going to trace it, I think, real quick. Just so I know where I'm supposed to be going. And I think I'm gonna do some polka dots on this one. All right, so I'm gonna decorate both my corals, and I'm gonna color them and decorate them, and I'm just gonna speed run through it, and you can decorate your corals too. You don't have to decorate them the same way that I am, but we want them to be more than just a simple plain color, and you'll see why when we get there. In class, this is a 2-day project, so right about here is about our halfway point of where we'll get to in the first day in the classroom. So if you want to pause and come back to it tomorrow, you can, or if you just want to push through and then you can turn it in later, that's fine as well. So I've got my fish, my coral, all decorated, and now I need to cut them out. So with our fish, we have to be very, very careful because we don't want to cut the tail off. So I definitely recommend that you leave a little bit of safety space when you're cutting them out. So don't cut on the black line. Leave a little bit of your paper between where you're cutting and the black line. That way you don't accidentally cut off the tail, because that's where he's going to be his weakest. And if you have an open mouth like I do, if you can get in there to cut it out, you can try. Otherwise you can just cut straight along. That's fine. You don't have to cut out the mouth. That'll work out just fine. Okay, so I'm cutting. So see, I left some safety space. That way my tail won't accidentally come off, okay? So I'm just gonna keep cutting my other pieces out. I've got 2 more pieces of coral to cut out here. And then I have to recycle my scraps and we can move on to the next step. Now we need to pull out our blue piece of paper. So I'm gonna put these guys off to the side. And we've got our blue piece of paper here. So we need to put our fish and our coral into our picture. Now here's the dealio though. We want our fish to take center stage. So we're actually gonna glue down the coral first. And we want our coral to touch the bottom. Coral doesn't just kind of float randomly up into the sky here. So I need to glue my coral down. Don't go off your edge. We're gonna fill in the rest of the spaces in a bit here. And your coral might be a little bit smaller than mine. I made mine a little bit big. But we're just gonna glue our coral right to our paper. So we need our glue sticks. If you have a glue bottle, that works just fine too. But remember, we go around the outside. And then a big X and a big T. And then we hold it for 10 seconds. So with this one so big, I like to smooth first and then we gotta hold it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. And now with this one, I could put it over here, or I could put it so like they're kind of overlapping like that. I think I'm gonna put it right here. So it's kind of close to the edge, but it's not as close as this one over here is. All right, so once again, we go around the outside. And depending on how you did this coral, you might have some more like fingers that you have to go up into glue. So make sure you get those. My big X and my big T. And line it up with the bottom. And then I gotta smooth and hold it for 10 again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, my fish comes next. Now you get to decide if you want the fish kind of up closer to the top. Maybe he's over here in this open space that I have. Maybe he's like nibbling down here on this. We don't want our fish to be going straight up like this, and we definitely don't want our fish to be upside down. So I think I'm gonna put mine right in the middle at the top. He's gonna be overlapping my coral just a little bit. Actually, you know what? I kind of like it. I kind of like him over here. That way I've got this space over here where I can draw some more stuff when we add our details. So now remember, around the outside, and be very careful with that tail. We don't want it to tear. If it does tear, that's okay though, because you can always just glue it down separately. So around the outside, my big T, my big X, flip it over. Alrighty, smooth, carefully not to rip my tail. Now I count, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now I get to put my glue stick away, and we need to pull out our oil pastels. Now I sent some oil pastels home in a bag. If you don't have oil pastels, you can use crayons instead. I just sent home some oil pastels because those are some fun things that we're gonna try in the classroom. And oil pastels, they're like crayons, and you gotta be careful with them. You don't wanna get them all over your clothes and stuff because they won't wash out very easily. But they work great for coloring on our construction paper. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna add some more coral to our picture. We want our coral reef to be nice and full. So it can go in front of some of your coral, or it could go behind. I think I'm gonna start, I've got this nice purple oil pastel. I think I'm gonna draw a short coral back here behind, and then I think I'll color it in. You know what, I think I want this one to be purple, and what other colors do I have? Purple and, ooh, I have a pink right here. I think I'll have it be purple and pink. And oil pastels mix really nicely together, so I can mix like that. And there's a couple other tricks I can show you too once I'm done coloring here. So right up to the edge. And now watch, I can use my finger to kind of smear it in, to get rid of those white speckles and smear the color so that they mix together. Your finger's gonna get pretty dirty, so if you don't like getting your finger dirty, you might wanna avoid that step. But we get dirty in art class, so it's just fine. All right, so there's one coral. I think I'm gonna have a coral that's over here and it's gonna go off the edge of the paper. So I'm gonna find, oh, I have a cool yellow. I'm gonna see what yellow looks like. And I think with this one, I'm gonna do a tall one. So it's gonna kind of be like, whoopoo, whoopoo. It's got those like fingers sticking up there. Then I'm gonna color. And I don't want my purple from my last one to mix, so I'm gonna use a different finger, or you could wash your hands and then do your different colors like that. All right. It looks like this one's not smearing quite as nicely as my other one did, but that's a-okay. I can always go back in and add some more. And I think I want to add some extra fanciness to this one. So I'm going to find, I think I'm going to find an orange. And maybe I'll give it like some small dots on it like this one, so that it kind of has dots like that one does on it. So your goal is to just kind of fill up the bottom of the paper with some coral. I might try coloring on top and have one in front on this side. We'll see how that one works. Let's see here. I've got this nice peach tanny color. I think it's a peach color. So I'm just gonna I think I'll do just like a little short one right here. You can see it covers it up quite nicely. So that way it looks like this piece of coral is in front of that piece of coral instead of behind it. Because when we look at pictures, things that are closer to us in the picture are in front of other things. So that's why our fish looks like he's closer to us. And I did get a little bit on my table, so I'm gonna have to make sure that I wash that up. And make sure that if you want, you can put like a piece of paper, like a scrap piece of paper underneath. Because we don't wanna be coloring on all of our furniture and whatnot. All right, so now I'm gonna smear this to help fill in my white spaces. And it looks like it's not quite covering up. I did use a pretty dark color on that coral. I used black and purple. But I can always go in with more colors. I'll drop some brown on here, that'll help maybe. And then I think I'm gonna do the lines like that one has. And maybe I'll mix in, I have like a sandy color. Let's see what that looks like. Ooh. So with the oil pastels too, they go on top of each other kind of nicely too. They really pop. So that's why I sent some home. I thought you might like that, give that a shot. If you don't really like the oil pastels, and like I said, if you want to use your crayons or something instead, that's just fine. And so I've got my nice coral reef is filled down here. You can add some maybe taller coral, or I think I'm actually gonna add some more like little fishies in the background here. So maybe like there's little fishies. Some kiddos will add like little sharks in the background. Some kiddos will add some bubbles. I might add some bubbles later, but this is like my school of fishies here. Maybe you want to add a jellyfish. I know we did jellyfish earlier this year, so you could do some jellyfish. But our goal now is to just kind of make this look like a really awesome underwater picture with our fish that we made. Some bubbles. All right, and then once you're all done, you just need to take a picture of it and turn it in.